Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to draft a simple waist snatch Victorian corset. So if this is something you will like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So let's start. For this particular pattern, we are going to be making use of bust dart for our front pattern. So making our front pattern to be longer than the back pattern. So my shoulder to bust is 9 inches, my shoulder to under bust is 12, my shoulder to waistline is 17, and for the top length I'm using 21 inches. So we're making use of a bust dart for this pattern, just like I said, and my bust dart is 1.5 inches. This totally depends on the difference between your front and your back. So now for my back pattern, it will be 21 minus 1.5 inches, which I will have 19.5. So first, let's go ahead and draft our front pattern before heading over to the back pattern. So first, I'm going to go ahead to mark the shoulder divided by 2, and my shoulder divided by 2 is 7, and I will come down by 1 inch and I will connect. So next is to find your chest line or your armhole, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and draw out my chest line, and I'll connect from my shoulder back to my chest line. So you want to divide your chest line into 2, and you're going to mark the center, come in by ½ inch, go down to your chest line, mark your bust circumference divided by 4, and you're going to go ahead to place your French curve and connect. Connect from the shoulder down to the chest line. This is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead to connect it all out this way. So after I'm done, you don't have to mark the neckline of this pattern because we are not making use of that. So I'll go over and I will be coming up by 2 inches at this point, and I'm going to draw a fence line at that point. So after I'm done doing that, I'll go over and I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5, and I'm going to go ahead and mark. Now I'm going to connect, drawing a straight line at those points. So after I'm done connecting, what I'm going to do is to go ahead to mark my dart intake. I'll be marking 1 inch at this point at the under bust waist, and I will connect. For a plus size, go ahead and use 1.5 inches. Now I'll connect it down to the top length of my corset this way. After I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern to make it more visible for you to see. So the next step you want to take is to draw out your cup area. Place your French curve connecting from your bust down to your under bust, and go ahead and repeat the same process for this part. So after you're done doing this, we are going to go ahead and work on the upper part of this corset. So at that 2 inches line, I went up from my chest line. I'm going to go ahead and mark my dart. So instead of marking 1 inch, I'll be using 0.75. This is just to make sure that I don't have much gaping at that point because I have a pointy edge. But you can go ahead and use 1 inch. There's no much difference. So for a plus size, you can use 1.5 inches or more, or you can go ahead to calculate. So I have a video on how to do that. You can check that out. So after I did that, I went ahead to connect, and I'm going to use my marker to blend in this way. So after I'm done connecting, the next step I'll take is to come down by ½ inch from my chest line. You can go ahead and use that same chest line, or you can come down. So I'm going to use my freehand sketch to just draw out what I have at that point. If you are good at using your pattern to draw this out, you can go ahead to do that also. So before I draw out, I'll blend in and make sure that what I have at both parts are meeting. So after that, I'll go ahead to draw this out, and this is what it looks like at this point. So after this, the next step is to go ahead to insert my measurements. At the bust, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake I have at this point, and I will be replacing it on the bust. Now, after I'm done doing this, I'm going to add back my sewing allowance of ½ inch. So this is a drafting tutorial. I'll be making use of ½ inch. Mark my under bust circumference, go ahead and measure the dart intake I took out. I'll replace and add 0.5 inches for my sewing allowance. Going down to the waistline, I'm going to go ahead to mark my waistline. But after this, we are going to go ahead to snatch our waist. So we'll be adding another dart to this pattern. So I went ahead to mark my actual waistline divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now at the top length, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance. So now I'm going to place connect from my under bust to my bust, and from my bust to my waistline, and from the waistline I'm going to connect down to the top length. So before I connect, in case I have any reduction while cutting, or like I cut more than required, I'm going to add extra ½ inch at the hip point. But any excess I have when sewing, I'm going to take it out. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect this way. So I'll go ahead and I'll use my marker to outline my pattern to make it more visible. So now we are trying to snatch the waistline. So to snatch our waistline, we have marked our actual waistline. What we are going to do is to add another dart to this pattern. And after adding that dart, we are going to go ahead to divide what we have and minus. So first, let's go ahead and create another line where we'll be inserting our dart. So now our actual waistline is 28 inches. Divided by 4, we have 7 inches. And we want to take out 4 inches from our waistline. And to do that, we're going to do 28 minus that 4 inches. What we are going to have is 24 inches. Now we are going to do 24 divided by 4, and what we are going to have is 6 inches. Now we are going to do 7 minus that 6 inches. What we have is 1 inch. So that 1 inch, we'll be dividing it into 2. So marking on this part, we are going to mark ½ inch on this part and ½ inch on the other part. So by the time we take out 1 inch from the right side of the front, take out 1 inch from the left side of the front, we have 2 inches. On the back pattern, by the time we take out 1 inch from the back on the right side and 1 inch at the back on the left side, we have 2 inches. 2 inches in front and 2 inches at the back, that is 4 inches. With that, we have taken out 4 inches from our waistline. So the original waistline, which is 28 inches minus 4, we have 24 inches. So after marking this, we want to go ahead and mark our bust dart. Remember earlier we mentioned that we are making use of bust dart, and the bust dart I'm using is 1.5. This 1.5 is not a constant, it just depends on the person that you're working with. So yours can be 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5, 3, or above. So all you have to do is to measure yours. So next, I'll mark 0.25 inches in front, and I'll connect and connect down. This is just to make sure that our waist is perfectly snatched. And I'm going to label the pattern, and after this I'm going to go ahead to cut out my pattern. But before cutting out my pattern, I want to create like a stylish effect at the lower part. I'll go up by 1.5 inches and I'll place my French curve and I'll connect it down to this point this way. So after this, I'm done drafting out my front pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. So let me mention this: by the time you mark your dart, your bust dart and take it out. Your waistline at the front will now be matching your waistline at the back, because there's no under bust at the back. My waistline in front is 17 and my waistline at the back is 15 and a half. That is minus the bust dart. The bust dart of 1.5 inches, that is 17 minus 1.5, you'll be having 15 and a half. So that is my waistline for the back. And just like I mentioned in front, the top length for the back will be 19 and a half inches for the back, because we took out a bust dart of 1.5 inches. So if you have any question, please leave it at the comment section. And after cutting out, this is what I have for my front pattern. So for my back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my measurements. This is my chest line, bust line, waistline, and my top length. So as you can see, this is the waistline of the front, which is about 17 inches, taking out 1.5, and by the time you merge it up, you have that 15 and a half inches. So now the top length, just like I said, after taking out your bust dart, will be 19 and a half inches. And now let's go ahead and draft our pattern. So now you want to go ahead and mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. And after you're done doing that, go ahead and place your ruler and you're going to connect, draw a straight line at that point. Now after doing this, I'm going to be marking my dart intake of 1/2 inch at both sides. Go ahead and connect, and also connect at this point, connect at the lower part, and also connect. Now you want to go ahead and use your marker to mark it out to make it more visible. So after that, I'll go ahead and insert my measurements. I'm going to mark the bust circumference divided by 4 at the sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and mark my sewing allowance. At the hip, I'm going to mark the hip circumference and add 1/2 inch. So if you notice on this pattern, we don't have an under bust at the back because we are making use of a bust dart, and we're going to go ahead and connect our pattern this way. And I'll place my French curve, connect from my waist down to the top length. And after this, I'm going to go ahead and use my marker to outline my pattern. So now coming from the chest line, I'll go down at this point and I'm going to place my French curve and I'm going to connect it back to my chest line this way. After that, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline at this point to make it more visible. Now the next step is to go ahead to create another dart line for this pattern. We want to go ahead and snatch our waistline just like we did in front. We have already done the calculation, and now we're just going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides, connect. So if you do this on both sides of your back, you'll be having like 2 inches at the back, and then remember we marked at the front, so we'll be having a total of 4 inches, which we have successfully snatched out from our waistline. So after we are done doing this, I want to create the back lacing bar, which I'll be using about 1.5 inches, which is not a standard. You can go ahead and use 2 inches or more. So after that, I'll rule a line and make a dot to indicate that point and label my pattern. And after I'm done doing that, just like we did at the front, I'll go up by 1.5 inches and I'll go ahead to place my French curve and I'll connect it back to my pattern this way. So after that, my back pattern is ready and I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our main YouTube channel, which is Marky's Closet, please go down to my YouTube channel and go ahead to subscribe. There we have both drafting and sewing tutorials. So after I'm done cutting, this is what I have, and with this we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Thanks.